We're going to talk about synthesizing sources when using research. And the information comes mostly from Chapter 13 and from Chapter 15 of Quick Access Brief, 3rd edition by Lynn Quitman, Troika, and Douglas Hess. So you can find this information in your text. So I want you to work on synthesizing your research into your papers. Often students think that if they're assigned a research paper, all that's expected is that they accumulate the information that experts may have written about the topic. Generally, that isn't the goal. More often, the goal is to give the students the opportunity to demonstrate his or her ability to make connections from the things they've read or watched or learned about a subject and to offer those insights to the reader. Instructors aren't looking for the critical thinking, the analysis, and insight of the original author. They're looking for the analysis and insight and critical thinking of the student. With that said, first and foremost, the most important thing for you to do when you're assigned a paper is to make the topic your own. If you're assigned a general topic, break it down using clustering or mind mapping or some other approach that you use to get to a topic that actually interests you within that broad topic, one that fascinates you, actually, that doesn't make your brain go numb. If you write a boring paper, it's on you. Your instructor never created an assignment that said, using information from credible sources, and please write a paper that will put me to sleep. We think you're smart, and we're giving you the opportunity to prove it. We're encouraging you to explore ideas, to learn new things, and to share your insights with us. So dazzle us. Work on synthesizing your research into your papers. Demonstrate your ability to think critically. Be dazzling. You can do it. So when do you use a direct quotation? And the answer is not that often. You use it when the language is especially vivid or expressive, when the exact wording is needed for technical accuracy, when it's important to let the debaters of an issue explain their positions in their own words, when the words of an authority lend weight to an argument, when the language of the source is the topic of your discussion. A better option is to paraphrase or to summarize. Summaries condense information, and paraphrases convey the same information as the original in about the same number of words as the original. But keep in mind, neither summaries nor paraphrases use the exact words or phrases of the original, nor do they use the order of ideas presented in the original. Okay, so it isn't just changing out a few words. It's actually saying something in your own words. So let's talk about synthesizing sources. And it's really all about you, with help from the experts. Together, your job is to weave together ideas, to provide evidence of your ability to bring ideas together. And if you want to see Troika and Hesse's definitions of effective synthesis, see the quick box on 13.3. And they tell you that it's making comparisons, creating definitions from the information from sources, and using examples or descriptions from one source to illustrate the ideas in another. When you use two authors and they're talking about the same general topic, but they have different subtopics, you use this approach. There are 1, 2, or however many important considerations or aspects of or reasons for the topic. One is from source A, in which something happens, and the second, as reported by source B, in which something different happens. You're comparing and contrasting. You're not just plopping them down. You're actually suggesting that they aren't the same, as opposed to encouraging your reader to do all the work. You also synthesize when when there is an agreement between two sources. They make the same basic point, and obviously through different words. And when you do that, you use a format similar to this. A and B reach the same conclusion, provide similar information, argue for the same point, or whatever, about this topic. A explains that something happens, and B found that something else happens, but they're basically in agreement. You synthesize when they partly agree but use different evidence or emphasize slightly different conclusions. Scholars generally agree, conclude, share the opinion, demonstrate that something happens. However, a difference between them is something. A emphasizes, asserts, or believes this. B, on the other hand, asserts this. When sources disagree, you demonstrate the contrast. They might because they use different facts or information or no information at all. When they interpret the same information differently, and God knows that happens a lot, just read the paper. When they operate with different assumptions or perspectives. When sources disagree, you might synthesize using this approach. There are two different perspectives, positions, interpretations, opinions about this topic. A says this, B, on the other hand, says this. Or you might take a different approach and provide more insight. There are two different perspectives, positions, interpretations, opinions about this topic. A says blank, but B says something else. They disagree mainly because they cite different facts, interpret information differently, operate with different assumptions. A points to this while B points to this. On this point, B's perspective is more convincing because. Now, rather than just reporting on what sources say, this example actually provides the student the opportunity to be dazzling, to demonstrate that he or she explored the information, understood it, and can present it to you clearly. This is really interesting. This is great synthesis. Sometimes sources aren't equally specific when one provides examples, illustrations, or evidence, and the other makes a more general point. A observes, claims, argues, concludes that something happens. B provides an example, a set of data, some information to support this observation. B states that. In this case, I might just skip A because unless A were an incredibly credible source, like Thomas Edison talking about electricity or something like that. But the fact that B has examples or data or information to back up the observation provides more credibility. According to B, something happens. This illustrates A's concept. This is interesting too. It's finding an author who has already done some analysis on another author's work. This is good. Evidence suggests, proves, demonstrates that A's claim that something happens is wrong, incomplete, or overstated. B shows that. Well, so what did you notice about synthesizing information? So far, I haven't talked about internal citations in the APA style, but what did you notice about how they synthesized information? I'm going to tell you. One thing that you noticed is that the author is identified before the idea. This, according to a pocket style manual, which is another textbook that provides information on how to cite sources and do references and is used in other schools, not here. Hacker and Summers, the author, refer to this as signaling in. And in signaling in, you let the reader know that information that's coming is coming from a source other than you. According to A, who is an expert because blah. So you know that the information is not, the reader knows it's not from the writer that he or she is reading, it comes from an expert. And he or she knows that the source of that information is credible because you let them know. And the credibility of the author reflects favorably on the credibility of the person writing the paper, the student writing the paper and getting the grade. Consider signaling in when you write your papers to let the reader know that something is coming from a source, that the source is credible. And then do your internal citation and put that information on your references page. See, it's easy to be dazzling. Thanks.